Merhabalar herkese. Bugün yine bir interview'de bir mülakatta birlikteyiz. Bu mülakatın açıklamasını şu an Türkçe yapıyorum ama birazdan İngilizce devam edeceğiz. Daha önce 3 tane interview yapmıştık. Ya da işte bazen yorumlarda görüyorum. Ya böyle sürekli İngilizce kelime kullanıyorsun. Mülakat de şuna falan diye. O yüzden bir dikkat edeyim ben de biraz daha. Daha önce 3 tane mülakat yapmıştık kanalda. Üçü de Türkçeydi. 2 tane junior, bir tane senior arkadaşımız vardı. Bugün yine bir junior mülakatı gerçekleştireceğiz. Yine backend developer arıyoruz tabii ki ama daha önceki videolarda da bahsetmiştim. Junior'lardan aslında çok fazla böyle bir backend tarafını biliyor olmasını, oradaki tecrübelerini duymayı beklemiyoruz. Çünkü adam zaten junior, bu işe yeni girmiş. Önemli olan burada bu arkadaşların programlama yeteneklerinin, kabiliyetlerinin olup olmadığını anlamaya çalışmak. Bugün de bu tarz sorularla sohbet ediyor olacağız Emre ile. Birazdan İngilizceye geçiş yapıyor olacağım. Aldığım notlar muhtemelen Türkçe olur. Daha sonra sizler de okuyabilin diye. Ama videonun kendisi İngilizce olmuş olacak ve Emre'ye başlamadan önce öncelikle İngilizce olayı kabul ettiği için teşekkür ediyorum. Çünkü biraz medeni cesaret gerektiren bir durum. İngilizce konuşabiliyor olmak. Bu cesareti göstermek yetmiyor sadece. Bir de İngilizce kendini ifade edebiliyor olmak, hatta kendi mesleğinde kendini de ifade ediyor olabilmek de önemli bizim için. O yüzden bir daha başlamadan önce teşekkür etmiş olayım. Emre, welcome. Welcome on board. Let's continue in English. This is a phrase that we...
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. I'm just going to give you a chance that you can explain yourself, but let me briefly explain what we are doing today. And in today's video, or just in today's stream that has been online on our Discord channel, actually. So we have live audience over here, but you will be watching it as a video on YouTube probably. And we are basically pretending that we are in a sort of interview. I'm the interviewer over here, or just who works as a senior developer in a company that is looking for junior developers, and Emre over here will be the candidate. This is not a real interview. There is no such company that I am interviewing for, and Emre might be a candidate for anyone else, but we aim actually to I aim to put a mirror just front of Emre so he can see himself, he can eat himself. Because in interviews, we are basically being aware of what we know or what we don't know. And today, I hope it's going to be the same. And again, Emre, welcome on board.
Thank you.
And as you applied for our company, the company, and I would like you to start with explaining yourself, who is Emre, and what he does, and give me some clue about yourself, please.
I have been start working a couple of months ago as a junior front-end developer. I have been into programming for like 2 years from now. I mostly have experience with Angular and ASP.NET Core.
Yeah, so you are a front-end developer. Although we are looking for a back-end developer, I'm not going to measure your front-end skills, but also I'm looking for some sort of programming skills, because I believe if you have those sort of skills that you can apply it wherever you work on, whatever you work on. It doesn't matter if it is front-end, back-end, or even database programmer you can be. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions related to understand what level you are on basically, and if you understood what you are using. And then I'm going to give you two different coding questions related to each other. And so one will be in relation with the other one. And there is no time limit, but you can take as much as you want. But please, let's keep it in under an hour so we don't get the audience bored. And I'm going to start, if you're ready for the interview, I'm going to start with design patterns. So what do you think that design patterns are for? And can you just give me a couple of design patterns that you've been applying for your project? What is it for?
For me,
What is it for? What is design pattern for you?
design patterns are for a way to solve a problem.
What sort of problems?
Programming
Programming.
problems.
Yeah, we all have some sort of problems. For example, if you give me a design patterns, what sort of problem we face, and this design patterns, what does it solve?
Let's say we have a function in a class
All right.
and we want to apply open close principle in solid principles,
Yeah, continue, please.
and we want to add an additional
Functions or methods or
function.
features.
Yeah, additional feature, let's say. And we don't want to modify this method. So in order to achieve this, we can use, I forgot the name.
What pattern?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Is it a pattern or you're talking about one of the
Decorative design pattern.
decorator? What does it do?
So
Can you give me a real life example of decorator pattern?
let's say we want to log our function. We can use this decorator design pattern for logging,
All right.
and basically we are achieving this without modifying the original method.
How this decorator pattern is going to help us? How are we gonna implement it so we can make our changes easily in the future?
So if we apply this design pattern, we also apply open close principle because we are not modifying the original method for this extra feature.
So you mean that we have a class and we use decorator pattern. When we are using decorator pattern, do we create another class or just we are implementing some new features in the same class?
No, we are creating a new class, and this class requires the class that is going to be intercepting, and it will call the method that we want to intercept.
All right. Yeah, that is what
So
decorator pattern does actually. This is the way we are using decorator pattern. And I'm going to ask you another question. It is not related to decorator pattern or design pattern, but it is really hard of programming, I can say. What is events? Events.
well,
What does it mean for you?
event means something occurs when something happens.
What is this something for you? Can you give me a real life example?
Like time, like click events.
Click events.
Yeah.
So are we creating this event or is it created by someone else for us to use it?
Could be both.
Could be both. In terms of programming, in what case do we need this sort of events? So what are we gonna do if some event is occurred or triggered?
If we want to react to any event like clicking or a time.
All right. Can we also use these events with another sort of patterns, for example, microservices? I believe one of the place that is events are used the most would be the microservice architecture. It is because the communication between microservices are important, and can we manage the communication process between microservices with events, you think?
Well, I'm not sure. I have not experienced any microservice architecture before, but I generally use events in front-end development.
So in front-end development, for example, let's say you are developing an e-commerce website, let's say trendyol.com, and when a user place an order, what sort of events would be thrown, do you think?
In front-end development, we have events like click or key press, something like that.
All right, let me switch the question. What is sing and async in terms of software programming? Sing and async. What those are
These are
for?
for asynchronous programming.
Yeah. What is it for? Why do I have to know about those, or what do I have to use those?
If we talk for JavaScript and front-end development, it is one-threaded language. If we don't use asynchronous programming, let's say we make a HTTP call, if we don't make it asynchronous, we can't do anything else except waiting. So we lose our application, let's say.
Do you try to say one of those is happening at the same time, but the other one is just happening in constant time and waits for the other task?
Yeah.
Which one is happening on the other side, on the other thread, or whatever you mean?
Sorry, I can.
Which one is giving us the opportunity to create another thread so we can run multiple tasks in once? Is it synchronous or the asynchronous?
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous. All right, that's enough for me for this start. And do you have the documentation that I shared with you just before the interview?
I have it.
All right. Could you open it and could you share your screen with us? All right, you're sharing your screen. I am going to give you a problem, and I would like you to talk about this first, and then you can start developing. I am now pasting some piece of text over here, and I can read you the question, or you can take your time, you can read it and ask me questions if you have. And then you can start developing in one of the ideas that you feel comfortable with. I believe it is Rider. I see it right now.
Yeah.
I can say I'm not happy in this situation. I would expect you to use Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, as I'm a huge fan of those, but just kidding. So, do you want me to read the question, or?
I can read.
Yeah.
Given an integer length, generate a valid parentheses pattern of length characters.
Yeah.
A valid parentheses pattern must follow these rules. First, every open bracket must be closed by a corresponding closing bracket. Second, the parentheses must be correctly nested and balanced, meaning that every open bracket has a corresponding closing bracket that is not preceded by another closing bracket without a matching opening brackets. Write a function in C#. Input length is an integer representing the total length of the generated parentheses pattern. The value of length is an even number. The function should return a string, which is a valid parentheses pattern of length characters. Note, there are multiple valid patterns for a given length, and the function should return a randomly generated pattern following the constraints.
Exactly.
For length 6, some possible outputs could be
blah blah blah blah blah blah.
All of these patterns are 6 characters long and are valid parentheses.
Exactly. So we are used to parentheses from our math class, I can say, or in programming, for example, it is required for functions. Open bracket and close the bracket. So this parentheses actually have a pattern that we are not aware of actually. I'm going to ask you create a function that generates random patterns, but the patterns must be valid parenthesis pattern actually. So for example, none of the valid parentheses start with close bracket without opening one. The rule says actually the parenthesis, every open bracket must be closed by a corresponding closed bracket, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot have two open bracket but one close only. It
Like
could be
this.
balanced as well. So that's why the parameter of length is an even number. So it could be 2, 6, 4, 16, 20, not an odd number. And yeah, this is invalid one, for example. I'm going
I
to,
should paint all possible
and not
strings.
all possible, just random length of parentheses, but it should be valid though. So if the parameter is 4, for example, what you need is 2 open bracket, 2 close bracket in a valid pattern. So it can be open, close, or open, close, something
Is
like
it
that.
okay if it returns something like that
Yeah,
in every
that's one
system?
of the possible outputs actually.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
I would
start
like to.
you can start whenever you feel yourself comfortable.
Okay, I would like to start right away.
All right.
We have a
Show
function
us your
that
best
returns
shot.
string.
Show us your best shot. Generate pattern and accept integer length. Yeah, public string. Or
Okay, first I would like to have two char or string.
you can create an array that has two char characters and open and close bracket, and you can use it. It doesn't need to it doesn't need to be in this function as well. It can be even static, just upside.
Okay.
Create an array, a list, or whatever you want.
What should I call it?
Make it array and call it array.
Let's say list.
List, yeah. Create list, call it list.
Okay, let's say our number is 6. I would like to divide it to 2, so I can put 3 open parentheses and 3 close parentheses.
All right.
Let's call it. Sorry, I'm writing a lot of TypeScript.
It doesn't matter for me actually. It doesn't need to be in C# as well. Whichever language you feel comfortable yourself, you can make your
Okay.
magic.
So let's say our number is 6.
All right.
I'm going to divide it to 2, and
So
I will have.
to find every bracket count, open bracket and close bracket.
Let's say our number is 6, so I'm gonna have 3 this parentheses and 3 this parentheses.
Yeah.
I can have basically.
Can you speak a bit louder?
Okay, I can have basically 2 for loops and append those charts in the string, I
Alright.
guess. Let's try.
It is string.
Yeah, sorry.
Which bracket are you going to use? Open one.
Yeah. Basically, I'm trying to form this.
All right.
So it's gonna put one of these,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna put one of these. At least I hope.
What I understood by watching you, you are basically creating one static pattern of it, but the question says randomly valid parentheses. So what you do is just only for the first options.
Yeah, but
But
it says could be.
yeah, it could be, but doesn't have to be exactly the one. So basically you are combining 6-digit string
Yeah.
char, and you are returning me this, but it needs to be throwing randoms. For example, if I pass 100 as a length of parameters, it,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't need to be 50 open and 50 close each other. It could be the second pattern or the third one, for example. So this function is going to generate random parentheses, but this randomness should be valid as well.
Let me think.
Take your time. So create random characters, but those randomness should be in some sort of rules. So for example, if there is no open bracket, you shouldn't create close bracket. For example, this is the rules. So you can randomly get items from this list, but it must be applied these rules.
Should I use regex
You
to
can
validate
you can
random generated?
uh,
Well,
but are you going to validate what you generate, or are you going to generate by using those rules?
I'm going to use math random
All
if
right.
it exists in C sharp, and then I'm going to use regex to validate if it's okay.
If it is not, what are you
If
going to
it is
do?
not, it's going to keep generating.
Oh, you can do, but do you believe this will be the one you really wanted? Because
Mm.
if there is no validation, or let's say you generated some pattern that is not valid for a million times, so it's going to check if it is valid and regenerate again for a
Yeah,
million
it's gonna
times.
work until something valid
Yeah,
happens.
something valid came up. That wouldn't be efficient, I believe. But you can try. You know what you do actually. So you have length, you have divided by 2. And what you need to do is just get random item from the list. But it is not that random actually. For example, if you get open bracket before, so now you can close it. That's okay. But if you never got open bracket from the list, that you cannot close it because there's no open bracket. So while getting an item from this list on
Mm-hmm.
your list, you can consider checking this. Did I get ever open bracket? Do I have any open bracket that is more than closed bracket, for
Mm-hmm.
example? You can count them maybe. You
Mm-hmm.
can count how
Yeah.
many open you've got from your list.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I need to randomly select this or this.
Yeah, it can be either of.
Do we have any method to randomly?
No, we don't, but we can generate random number.
Do I need to?
It is
import
not under
something?
math actually. It is, you can just directly use random. It's a
Okay, thank
class.
you.
You need to create new instance of random. Create random, open close bracket, and next.
Sorry,
So you're going to generate
0.
no 0. It must be 0 2 if you want to generate 1 or 2. Or are you going to generate 0 or 1?
Yeah.
Then it must be, so this is the minimum value and this is the maximum value. The 0 cannot be maximum value. So maximum, no, maximum could be 2
Yeah.
and minimum should be 0. No, this is the maximum one. So set it to. So the parameters in next, it should be 0,
Sorry.
yeah, 0 comma 2, because the second one is not included. Yeah, with this way you can get either 0 or 1.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Integer random number.
Yeah. Now what are you going to do with that random number?
I'm gonna randomly take one of these, and as you said, I'm going to count. And if count is 0, it cannot pick this. That's my first rule.
All right.
I'm going to say if count is 0, actually I need a loop.
If it is 0, what are you going to do?
Actually, we don't need this for the first one, because first one always should be this.
Makes sense.
So I can statically pick it up. So our length is,
Our length is 6, for example.
yeah, we can make it 5 because we are gonna pick. Actually, we can make it 4 because let's get started. Then
All
I
right.
can pick
Yeah,
enough.
let's some code and optimize it later.
Yeah. So here I'm gonna pick a random number, and if e equals to 0, so it's the first one, and random number is 0. That's my first rule,
All right.
because the first one should be this one. And then we have result here. If it's okay, we are going to append the string to our result.
All right. What is the string?
Probably this, because it's not gonna accept the other. List random number.
What if it always generates 1 instead of 0? So you said if random number is 0. Is it going to get the first element if it is 0, or if it is the first iteration of the for loop is going to get this first one?
Yeah,
I didn't
I need
get why did you use this random number equal to 0 condition?
because I would like to randomly pick one of these.
But why the random number is needed to be 0?
Because first one is always should be.
Yeah, but the first one, you're already checking the first one. You said I equal 0. This is checking if it is first one.
Yeah,
Why did you have to check random number as well?
because if e is equal to 0, my random number should be 0. Actually, I can statically type it, but I will refactor it later.
All right.
But I just noticed that this is pointless because, as you said, this can give me 0 6 times.
Yeah.
Instead of looping length, I should have a while loop, and I should keep my program in this loop until my
It's done.
results length is equal to given length.
All right.
And in every loop, I'm going to create a random number.
All right.
And then our count starts at 0. I should increase the count if we add string to results. So let's select this one. Okay. If count is 0, we always have to add open brackets.
All right.
And I'm also going to count how many open and close brackets I have in my result.
Makes sense.
That text is correct. Let me check. Yeah. And after that, I'm going to increase my open bracket count.
What if instead of checking if it is the first iteration or the second iteration or the last iteration, what if you could check the open bracket count and close bracket count? Because what we know is close bracket count cannot be greater than open bracket count, right?
But if we don't check our count, then it might be like this.
No, the rule says the close count bracket, so close bracket counts, cannot be greater than the first one, the open bracket one. So, for example, if you check if open bracket count is equal or more than close, what would it give you?
So is that and a result is like that, okay?
No, it is not okay. But let's imagine you're generating the first one, close bracket. Your condition says, did I ever create open bracket? So you can check your open bracket counts, right? So as it is false, you cannot get the closed one. So delete this if, please.
Okay.
And check check. So there's another condition. If you already opened any bracket more than closed one. So if your open bracket count is, let's say, a more than closed one. So in this case, what are you going to do?
I have to add and close bracket.
You can create open bracket as well, right? So open, open, close, close, it can be. So you
But
got,
in that case, it's not greater than close brackets.
no. So let's imagine your first bracket is open. So
So I have to.
in the first iteration, it is
I
not.
must
So,
do this.
or think the other way around. What if your open bracket count is equal to close bracket? In this case, for example, both are 0. In this case, what are you going to do? If both are equal.
I can randomly add one of the brackets.
When both are equal. So you have one open and one closed. The counts are 1, 1, and those are equal.
Yeah,
What is your second move? Can you also close another one? Or
no,
do you have to open new one?
I have to open
New one. So when the open bracket count is equal to closed bracket count, what you need to do is just get the closed bracket, right? When those are equal, that means you need, you cannot get the closed one. You need to get open one.
Open bracket.
Yes. So when both are equal, you cannot use closed again.
So now we have one open bracket.
What about the other conditions? What if close bracket is not more than, but what if open bracket is greater than close bracket?
Then we have to add a close bracket.
We have to, or we should?
We should.
And let's say the length is 8. All right. So in your first iteration, you got open bracket, correct? And in the second one, your condition says if the open bracket equal close, no. Get the another condition. Just you said. If open bracket is more than, so greater than close bracket, you said we have to get close bracket.
Yep.
But in this case, all your bracket would be open, closed, open, closed, open, closed.
Yeah.
But it could either be open, open, close, close. This is also a valid one. So
actually,
so if the open bracket is more than close bracket, we can get close, but we can also get open bracket. So maybe the randomness comes over here.
Yeah, let's start. If open bracket is greater than close brackets, we are going to add result a random brackets. So we could have a result like either like
open
this,
or closed.
or either like this. So in that case, I have to also increase one of these counts.
Yeah, if it is open, increase open one. If it is closed, increase closed one.
If a random number equals to 0, increase open brackets. Let me paste. And else increase close brackets.
Exactly. So we said if those are equal, get open one. We have to. We said if open bracket is more than close bracket, get either of those. But I have question. So let's say our length is 4 or 6. All right. And now we have open. Would you write it down? And
Yes.
in our array or pattern, we have open, close. So both are okay. And one more open. So we've got 5. And the 6th one, in your case, would be open as well. Is it because in this case open bracket is 3 but close bracket is 2? So your condition says if open bracket is greater than close one, you can get either. What if you can get again open one? Would that be valid?
No, it wasn't.
So what would you do?
We have to check if open brackets and close brackets are equal.
Those are not.
If not,
So for example, delete the last one. So our iteration, no, the last parenthesis, last bracket, yeah. Now we are looping for the 6th time. And your condition says open bracket is closed than more than close. And it is true. So it gets in and it gets open one. Can it get? So I feel there is something missing in your condition. Because in this case, for example, you put another open one. Do you think it is balanced? It is not.
No, it's not.
Because you have 4 open and 2 closed only. So your open bracket is already more than halfway.
We can add another condition.
Like what?
And say where and sorry. If it's we actually forgot to increase our count.
Total count.
Actually, we don't need it. Results dot length equals length dot minus 1. If our result length is equals to length minus 1, and if these are not equal, let's say in that case we have 1, 2, and 3 open brackets, and we have 2. In that case, we can force it to add a close brackets.
So if open bracket is greater than close bracket, are you going to force it to use only close one?
Yeah.
But it is the same case. So your pattern would be open and close, open, close, open, close. Isn't it? Let's call it a day. And thank you for your effort. So I had 2 questions actually, but I didn't have a chance to ask the second one. Let's continue with the evaluation part. It is also going to be probably behind this video, so I'm not going to make it 2 different videos. Instead, I'm going to make it one only, so you can stop sharing your screen. Thank you for your effort. And now I'm going to give you what I think. And firstly, I ask you the decorator. I ask you define the design patterns and what those are for. And you were right over there. You confidently explain yourself. You were able to express your feelings a bit nervously, so you were nervous at the first place, but you were able to explain at least what decorator pattern is. So instead of explaining what design patterns are for, you started giving a real-time example with decorator design pattern, which is okay. But I would expect you to explain what is design pattern and then give a real-time example, a real life example. That would be a good order though. And on the second one again, the same for the events. So I ask you what events are. You were able to give me a sentence that explains what events are. But in terms of programming, events must be in a might be in a different shape, I can say. You would mention about that too. And you said you have no microservice experience. That is okay for me. And but also the events can be used in a communication method. So when anything happens, it can let anything know about that. So I was trying to give you an example. When any order is placed online on a website, e-commerce website, for example, Trendyol, when you place an order, it could be order created event. I really expected to hear you from that one. Order placed event is a real life example. That was okay though. And sync and async, I felt that you know what it is, but you were not able to explain it. It is probably because of the English. If I ask you the same question in Turkish, you would probably be able to explain yourself very well, properly. But in English, you might be a bit nervous, and probably those are the questions that you have been explaining yourself for the first time in your life in English. Maybe in Turkish, as I said, you would be even more comfortable, but in English, it was a bit difficult for you. And the coding question, also, you were not good at it, I can say. You had some ideas. You had some different ideas in some different topics, but you couldn't come them together actually. So you had many ideas, but they were not in a relation, and I had to steer you to put in a good direction. And you missed a couple of conditions, but I can say your coding programming skill is okay. Just you need to work on lots of algorithm questions and list questions, maybe array questions. And I have a YouTube channel, as you know. I know a YouTube channel where you can get all of those actually. And there's a guy called Salih. Basically, he's explaining what the data structures is, what a string is, and what is the memory management as well. And I know you from my YouTube channel, Discord channel as well. I know you are qualified to answer some questions, but I feel just you were nervous about this interview and you couldn't explain yourself entirely and properly. And thank you for your effort. This could be my feedback to you, so you can see what is your missing point, what are you missing, so you can fill them up later. And thank you for your time, and I'll see you later.
Thank you for having me here.
We are very welcome, Emre. I hope to see you again.
See you again.